Hello and welcome to another episode of the iGoldrush Report, where you learn all about domain names, what to do with them, and how to make money with them. I'm Paul Goldstone, CEO and owner of iGoldrush.com, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello, I'm Morgan Linton, and welcome to the iGoldrush Special Report. Now, last time I did my videos, we had sea lions, and I actually had a number of people that really liked those sea lions. I'm sorry to say there are no sea lions today. Instead, it's actually a windy day here in Marina del Rey, and what you will hear in the background is that flapping noise of the ropes against the sails of sailboats. So, not quite as exciting as sea lions, but can't really control where they're going to be. So, today I want to talk about a topic that is of interest, I think, to just about everybody, which is buying expired domain names. And this is a place where a lot of new domain investors, as well as a lot of experienced domain investors, get their inventory, and that's because there's a lot of opportunities with expired domain names. Now, the reason that these opportunities exist is because a lot of these domain names are names that have been registered for a very long time, that may have been used for something at some point in time and aren't anymore, or maybe were used by somebody that tried whatever they could and it failed, or maybe forgot to renew them. Now I want to talk about the first category first, which is that from time to time you will buy an expired domain that was owned by somebody else that completely forgot to renew it. And I highly recommend that everybody take the moral high road and just give it back to that person at the price that you paid. I do this every single time that I buy an expired name that somebody else has owned. Looks like there's now, no sea lions, but a helicopter. So this is actually sometimes, and I can explain this too, because my hair is blowing away. There's actually a couple of boats here. This is ridiculously crazy. Not the one behind me, but one further down. There actually is a helicopter landing pad on the boat itself. So that may be the helicopter for that. I don't know. Maybe circling around, maybe they're trying to get a little bit of information about domains. But hey, never a dull moment on the marina. So if you do buy an expired domain name and somebody contacts you afterwards and says, hey, that was my name, what's going on? Don't be a jerk about it and say, well, you let it expire, now you have to pay me thousands of dollars. Be a nice person, give it back to them for whatever price you paid. Obviously, you shouldn't take a loss on it, but you shouldn't try to profit off of somebody else's mistake. Now, a majority of the expired domains that you buy, though, are going to be ones that people didn't forget about, they just don't care about anymore and they aren't using. And that's what I wanted to talk about, which is that category of domains and how to identify which ones really make good potential investments. And it all comes down to doing your research. Whether you're buying an expired domain name, whether you're hand registering a domain name, or you're buying from a private party, you need to do your research. And it's really important when it comes to expired domains because you don't know what the history of that domain was. So I'm going to talk about 3 different tools that I use to research expired domains, as well as the tool that I use to find expired domains. So when I'm searching for expired domains, rather than going to every single different marketplace, I use one tool. That's a tool called FreshDrop. Really, really neat tool. Essentially, it aggregates all the marketplaces together, allows you to do all sorts of cool searches and to figure out if you want a CVCV or if you want a name that used to be a PR2 or a name that had a certain number of backlinks. You can do all that granular searching. So use FreshDrop to do those searches. And then what I do is I want to look at, all right, well, are those keywords in the domain name as popular as I think they are? So once again, Google AdWords Keyword Tool, I think I've talked about this more than just about anything on the planet, but you want to look at search volume and CPC and look at exact match local and make sure there's enough people searching. I look at over 500, over 1,000. That's kind of my baseline. I'm not going to put a hard stop at all. It's got to be over 753 or it's got to be over 1298. Use your best judgment, but if it's under 200, probably not a lot of people searching for it, not as valuable. With the CPC, the same is true. I'd say try to go for something over 50 cents if you can, unless it's a keyword that you really care about. But make sure that search volume and CPC is there, because that's not only value that's going to tell you whether there's a lot of people searching for it or willing to pay for advertising, but it also is something that is really the key metric that domain investors use. So if you don't find an end user buyer and you're trying to liquidate the name, the first thing a domain investor is probably going to do is go to the Google AdWords Keyword Tool and take a look at that search volume and CPC. So you looked at the search volume and CPC. The next thing I recommend that everybody does is use the Estabot. Oh, now we've got a little bit of a soundtrack there. There you go. Thank you. That was soundtrack complimentary of that guy and Mercedes convertible listening to teeny bopper music. Very good. So we've got Esteban. And what I recommend with Esteban is to take a look, and don't look at Esteban as, well, that's exactly how much the domain is worth, but look at it as a little bit of a guide. So, if you're bidding on an expired domain name and it goes up to $5,000 and Esteban values the name at $1,200, I'd be a little bit cautious with that. But I wouldn't say, oh, the domain's only worth $1,200. There's plenty of domains that could be worth a lot more than $1,200. The Esteban will value at $1,200, but you can at least use it as a gauge. And so if you're buying the name for $50 and Esteban's valuing it at $5,000, okay, that could be okay. You could be getting something that is at a potential value. Now the third tool that I'd like to talk to you about using is domain tools. And this is what you want to use actually to look back at the history of the domain name and see what it was used for in the past. And the reason why this is important is the last thing you want to do is buy a domain name that somebody else used to run some kind of a scam. So what you want to do is go back, look at use the Who Is history tool in domain tools, and look at who owned it, and look up that company name in Google and find out if someone's saying like such and such is a scam, or stole my money, or cheated me out of my life fortune. I don't know, do you really want to own a name that person owned, because it may come with those person's problems as well. And last but not least, try to pull emotion out of it and don't really pay attention to the number of bids. Okay, it can be really easy with expired domain names to see a ton of people bidding on a name and to go, oh, well, that's got to be valuable. But remember, it just takes a few uninformed, brand new domain investors to get really excited about a name and start a bidding war, and a name can get into thousands of dollars, even if the only people bidding are people that have never even made $1,000 selling a domain name. So try to ignore those bids. Those aren't necessarily that meaningful. Instead, use your research, use your data, and buy names based on that. And like I said when I started the video, please, 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 if you buy an expired domain and someone contacts you and said, hey, I didn't mean to let that drop, oh my goodness, that was for my business, don't be a jerk and try to sell it to them for a fortune. Instead, do the right thing and give that name back to them for the price that you paid. What goes around comes around. I feel like the best that we can do as investors is to make smart investments, and in the case where occasionally we pick up an expired name that somebody else wanted, give it back at the price that you paid. This is Morgan from morganlinton.com, the iGoldrush special report. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the iGoldrush Report. If you have any questions or comments, or any other topics you'd like discussed, please visit our website at www.igoldrush.com, and we look forward to hearing from you.